in 8th grade, I auditioned for and got into a classical music camp. And it was called Camp Greenwood. It was small and competitive. It was only like 50 people, and it was out in like the mountains of western Massachusetts, and it was beautiful and unlike anything I'd ever seen. In the mornings, we had orchestra in this gigantic barn that you had to like walk from where we slept, like down this dirt road, like half a mile to get to. And we had chamber music and private lessons and time to practice and all these nerdy things throughout the day in these practice cabins that were located throughout like the woods on the property. It was really gorgeous. And I had never done anything like that or been anywhere like that before, and I didn't really know what to expect. And my first day there, I auditioned and I got into, I got seated first in the orchestra, and I was like, that's awesome. And then I auditioned for like chamber music groups, and I got put in a really great one. I was like, that's awesome too. And then that night we played soccer, and it turned out that no one at Greenwood Music Camp had ever played sports before because I was a fucking god out on that soccer field, and I had never played soccer before, and it was amazing. And that night we're sitting around with all these people I didn't know. Everybody else had like been there for years. This was junior Greenwood, so it was like 10 to 12, or probably younger, but I don't remember, till 13 years old. And we're all just sitting around. I didn't really know what to expect, and I made a joke, and people laughed. And I was like, this is amazing. This is an amazing place. And this one little guy, Steven, he was a toucher, he came over and he started giving me a back rub, and I was like, that's too much. And he goes, oh, Debbie's popular. It was like echoing my head, like, popular. I was like, that's a lie, that's not true. But they don't know that. And it's not like I was like dramatically unpopular back at home, but I was the kind of kid who had like, you know, braces recently removed and wore glasses and had a brief stint on the math team, and no one really gets away from that. And, you know, and I played cello, let's be honest, and at the time it didn't dawn on me that maybe being popular at classical music camp and being unpopular in public middle school, they weren't necessarily mutually exclusive. But at the time I was like, I'm living a double life. I can never let them know. And so, like, while I was there, it was unbelievable. I was friends with a celebrity's kid. Itzhak Perlman's daughter went to Camp Greenwood, and probably none of you know who he is. he's like Yo-Yo Ma, but he plays violin and has polio. And and his daughter thought I was the coolest, and she'd like voluntarily come and hang out with me, like. That would be like if you went to regular camp and like the daughter of Sting thought you were great. Like, you were cool by association. I was like, I'm in. And people would ask me to do this thing. So like for fun, people at classical music camp would get together and like sight read chamber music. They liked it so much they gave it a name. I don't remember what it was. It was like spelching or sporking or something. And they'd be like, hey, want to come spelch with us? Like, frankly, like, I wasn't particularly good at it, and it gave me anxiety, but I was like, this is a cool thing that people are asking me to do, and I'm popular, so I have to. So I go and I do it, and this guy, Ted, who I had a huge crush on, who was like this, he was like 12 or 13, and had one of those husky kid voices that sounded like he had been a smoker for 10 years. Like, we'd sit around and have like nerdy philosophical conversations, and he'd quote Monty Python, and I'd laugh even though I didn't understand it because I'd never seen them before. And I was like, he's the greatest. And then he asked me to this big dance that they had at Greenwood Music Camp, which was basically like classical music camp prom. It was held in the barn, and it was literally a square dance. Like, they hired fiddlers to come and had a guy who did the like square dance calling. He'd be like, swing your partner around and around, that kind of thing. But I didn't know, and I was like, I have a date to classical music prom. And to be fair, I didn't know what to do about that, because at like age 12, 13, I was, the idea of being asked out by a boy that I was interested in was too mind-blowing to contemplate, and I was like, as soon as it happened, I was like, that's fantastic, and then I felt weird and ignored him for the rest of the summer. So I ruined that. He even came up to me on the day of this big dance and was like, so I guess this didn't work out? I was like, oh, I fucked that up so hard. But ignored date or not, I had a date to the dance. And I was like, Debbie, soak it up. People like you. They think your ideas are funny. I had this idea that I thought my cello teacher's son was really pretty, and was like, we should dress him up like a girl, and instead of being like, Debbie, that's not fun, people were like, yes, your ideas are brilliant, and so we did for like this whole dramatic afternoon for this poor kid. We like gave him a makeover and dressed him up like a girl, and he just like ran around camp looking like a woman, which I'm sure is still scarring to him. But I was like holding it onto it and like soaking it in, because the next day I had to go back to public school where people will remember that I had been a mathlete once. And, you know, people probably think that Itzhak Perlman was some family member who had been at my weird bat mitzvah, which was at the YMCA, because not all Jews are classy, because that's the Young Men's Christian Association. Some of us are just cheap. And, you know, where I'd hang out with my friend Christine, and we would sing Indigo Girls songs while accompanying ourselves on the cello and the guitar, and that wasn't considered hip and edgy, that was considered, you know, embarrassing and lesbianic. So that last day, I was like, I may have lost my date, but fuck it. Classical music camp thinks that I'm popular. I embraced it. So thank you so much. Yeah.